This is it. This is the 13 letters of Paul the Apostle. The 13 letters of Paul, commonly known as the Pauline Epistles. Paul, he was a black man of the tribe of Benjamin, born in Tarsus, Cilicia, location in Africa. These are the letters written by Paul the Apostle, the worker for the Most High. Paul, his name was changed. It was changed from Saul to Paul. But the Hebrew name of Paul, his actual name, his real name, is Shaul. The 13 letters of Paul the Apostle. These are the letters that Shaul, commonly known as Paul, these are the letters that he wrote to the original black Jews that were scattered throughout the land of Africa, in Namibia, southwest Africa. That is the location where all of these events of Paul, his life, where they occurred. Epistles of Paul the Apostle. Paul, he was a black man, a black Hebrew. Paul was not a Caucasian, and he was not the so-called Mediterranean or olive color. Paul was none of that. Paul was a black man from the tribe of Benjamin. And he was born in Tarsus. Tarsus is located in Cilicia, and Cilicia is located in Africa. This is where Cilicia is. Cilicia is not a city, nor town, nor village. Cilicia is the name of a region in the Galilee area, in Lower Galilee. It is located in Asia Minor. Asia Minor is Lower Galilee. And within the Lower Galilee area, this is where we'll find Cilicia. It is a region in the Lower Galilee area. Within this region is Tarsus. This is the city, the town, the village where Paul the Apostle, where he was born, from the tribe of Benjamin. This is it here. And all of this is in Africa, in Namibia, southwest Africa. Now, the background for the entire New Testament period, the first century, the background is the Maccabean Revolt. You see, the Maccabean Revolt, that created the Apostate Jew, the Apostate Black Jew, the Black Hebrew. And the Maccabean Revolt was a revolt against the Seleucid Empire, forcing the Black Hebrews to abandon the Most High and adopt paganism. That's the Maccabean Revolt. All this is recorded and written in the book of Maccabees. So that revolt created the apostate Jew, the apostasy. And the apostate Jew gave the occasion to the disciples to write their letters, to write the epistles. So all of the epistles, the Gospels to Revelation, all of those letters were written to the Black Hebrews who were in a state of apostasy. So that's the background. That is the recipient of the entire New Testament. And the disciples, they did not write their letters to any Caucasians. You see, the Caucasians, they were not in this area. They were not in Africa at this time. They were still in so-called Europe, in caves. They were not here in Africa during this time period. There's no written documentation of any Caucasian in Africa during the 1st century. The Caucasian was still in caves, and the Moors, after the 5th century, the 5th, 6th, or 7th century, was the time when the Moors went to so-called Europe and civilized the Caucasian. But nonetheless, that's the background of the entire New Testamental period, the apostate Jew, the apostate Black Jew. And from that recipient, now we can begin to look at each epistle, the location of these epistles, and all the locations are in Africa, in Namibia, Southwest Africa. This is the Roman Empire. This is the ancient and authentic, the historical Roman Empire, located in Namibia, Southwest Africa. This is the real one here. This is the real historical Roman Empire. This is how it looked. This is its topology. Rome was an empire that was set on 7 hills. 7 hills. And these are the 7 hills. This is the location of the 7 hills of Rome. This is a hill here. This is first hill, and these are not in any certain type of order. This is hill number 1, and we can see the remains, what is left of the Roman Empire. That's 1 hill. This is 2. Oh, this is the remains of the Roman Empire in Africa, in Namibia. There's 2 hills so far. This is 3. All this here makes up the 3rd hill. As we pan in closer to the artifacts that's left, our view becomes blurred. That's 3. This is 4, 5, 6, and 7. This hill here, this one has been identified as the Capitoline Hill. The Capitoline Hill This is where the United States gets its Capitol Hill from the Capitoline Hill, Capitoline Hill of Rome. It was dedicated to the god Jupiter, and one of Rome's most famous and important temple, the Temple of Jupiter, that was built, constructed, and established in this location here in the Capitoline Hill. Another important element of the Capitoline Hill is that Hadrian, and Hadrian was a black man. All of the Romans, they were black. Hadrian, he rebuilt a second Jerusalem, and he built it, constructed that Jerusalem on the Capitoline Hill. This is where Hadrian put that second Jerusalem here. And as time went on, with the advent of the Caucasian, they copied the second Jerusalem that Hadrian made. They copied that Jerusalem and placed it in the Middle East. And the Jerusalem in the Middle East, that one is one from the Caucasian, goes back to the Capitoline Hill in Africa. But this is it. This is Rome. This is how it looked. Located in Africa. The Romans, they were black. Now these black people, they did not identify themselves as Rome or as Romans. The whole concept of Rome was made up out of thin air, but it was applied to a real kingdom and real people. And this kingdom, this is the Lydian Empire. You see, Rome never existed. It was made up out of thin air, and Rome was made up in the 18th, 19th centuries. And the Caucasians that made up this fictitious Rome, they used several elements. One of those elements was the Lydian Empire, and one of those elements was some of the dynastic families of the Lydian Empire, such as Croesus. But this is Rome here, and one of the ways that we know, one of the evidence that confirms that this is Rome, is by that old saying, all roads lead to Rome. You see, the Romans, they were master road builders. They constructed roads, and they always made their roads in a straight line, as straight as possible, as much as the terrain will allow them to make it as straight as possible. And that's what we see here all throughout this territory, all throughout this region. We see a lot of roads. And Rome was the only empire that did that. The only empire that constructed a lot of roads. They made a road that extended from their empire all the way to Judah. This is Rome here. And again, one of the main evidence is the roads that are constructed, and the old saying, all roads lead to Rome, during this time period, that was a true saying. Because the Romans, with all of their provinces, all of the kingdoms and nations that they conquered, they built roads that led to all of their provinces and connected to different locations to other provinces, and ultimately that connected to the main location, these 7 hills. It was sort of like a web. And that's where the old saying comes from, all roads lead to Rome, because Rome was the only nation that did that. And the mindset behind building roads was this. The Romans, the so-called Romans, they had the understanding, they had the thinking that the straighter the road, the more quicker they can get to their destination. And whenever there's an uprising, turmoil and upheaval going on, the straighter the road to that location, the quicker they can get to their enemy, the quicker they can get to their provinces. All because the road was constructed in a straight line, or as straight as possible as the terrain will allow them to do so. So this is the historical Rome here. This is its location in Africa, and all the Romans, they were black. This is the old Lydian Empire. This is Lydia. Now the Romans, they may not have been the people of Lydia, but it is highly possible that these Romans, the real ones that took over the Lydian Empire, it's possible that these people could have been the Pelagians. You see, the Pelagians, they are identified as Ethiopians. The Romans came from the Greeks, and the Greeks, they are identified as Macedonians, and the Macedonians are identified as Ethiopians. That means all these people are Ethiopians. Various names just have been applied to them, but these are all Ethiopians. But this is it here. This is Rome, and the epistle to the Romans. Now what is not clear about that is this. Paul, he never let us know the specific location of the apostate Jew that were residing in Rome. You see, it is possible that the apostate Jew, the black Jew, they could have been residing in the main areas, the main cities of Rome, which is one of these hills, or they could have been residing in one of the provinces of Rome. So with that, Paul, he did not let us know where exactly were the black apostate Jew residing at. But nonetheless, we have the epistle to the Romans, and this is the location, this is the destination where that epistle went to Rome, whether it was the main location region of the Seven Hills or whether it was one of the provinces of Rome. This is where that epistle went. And Rome was full of a lot of original black Jews. Rome, they were black people, men and women and children, the Pelagians. And there was a lot of apostate black Jews dwelling here in Rome. This is it here. And again, this is the old Lydian Empire. That it has been possible, it is possible that the Pelagians revived and took over this empire. And this is what we call Rome. Another piece of evidence that confirms that this is Rome, besides the roads, is that the Lydian Empire, this is the empire that fits the prophecy of Daniel and in Revelations, but mainly in Daniel. You see, after Greece came the kingdom that is made of iron. And Lydia and the Lydian Empire is that empire of the Iron Age. The kingdom of Lydia. Not Greece, not any other empire that preceded it, not Persia, not Medes, not Assyria, but Lydia. Lydia is the kingdom of the Iron Age. And the Iron Age, that concept, that epithet, has been ascribed and applied to Lydia, the kingdom of Lydia. So that's another confirmation that let us know that the Lydian Empire is the empire that fits the prophecy of Daniel the kingdom of iron. And another evidence is some of the rulers of the Lydian Empire. The Lydian Empire had a lot of successions of rulers, several dynastic families. Heracles, and then Gygas, and the last one was Croesus. There was a lot of families that ruled Lydia. And that concept is what the Caucasians stole in the 18th and 19th century and created the Roman Empire with the so-called Caesars, a succession of Caesars. Another piece of evidence is in the book of Maccabees, when Judas was being informed about the Roman Empire. They let Judas know that the Roman Empire, they crushed their enemies, and they made their enemies pay a heavy tribute. And some of their enemies they made friends. Now that's in Maccabees chapter 8. Well, Croesus, this is where the information comes from. Croesus, he did just that during his reign. He crushed his enemies, and a lot of his enemies he made them pay a heavy tribute, and some of his enemies he made friends. But that was a real historical event that applies only to Croesus. Croesus was the only king that when he defeated his enemies, he made them pay heavy tribute, and some of his enemies he made friends. Croesus was the only one that did that. No other ruler of any other empire did that. Many other empires, they made their enemies pay tribute, but they did not include them as friends. So that piece of evidence is historical, and it is evidence that this is the Lydian Empire, that it is called Rome. This is it here. And we can look at a lot of the roads. These are roads connecting different locations and sites together like a worldwide web. The 7 hills of Rome, located here in Namibia in Africa. This is it here. And this is where the epistle to the Romans written and sent to either this location or to one of its provinces. And again, the people of Rome never called themselves Romans. The concept of Rome was made up out of thin air in the 18th and 19th centuries. But the people that ruled the Lydian Empire, it is quite possible, a lot of the evidence points to the Pelagians as the black people that was ruling and ruled this empire as an empire of iron. And when you look at the history of the Pelagians are basically Greeks. And they also are, the Greeks and the Macedonians are the same people genetically. But the Macedonians, the Greeks, and the Pelagians, they all are genetically Ethiopians. This is Greece. This is the ancient and authentic Greece. This is the real one. This is the one of history, the authentic Greece. Greece was never located in Southwest Asia. It was never located in the so-called Europe. Those lands are land full of cavemen. All land outside of Africa are land that were full of cavemen. And all history is black history. And that black history occurred in Africa. This is Greece. The Greeks, they were black. The so-called Romans, they were black. And they both existed in Africa. And this is the location of the historical Greece. This is it here. This is where Paul, he wrote several letters. He wrote letters to the Ephesians. They were located here. The Apostate Black Jew, that resided in Ephesus. Ephesus is a city, a town in Greece, located here. Paul, he wrote a letter to the Corinthians, and Corinth is another city, a town located in Greece and located close to the coastline. Corinth located over here in Greece. This is another location of the apostate black Jew that resided here. We have to keep in mind that when the disciples, when they came to these locations, to Corinth, Ephesus, and the rest of the locations, they did not come to these countries, to these cities, and mingle themselves with the citizens of the cities. They came here and went straight to the synagogues. They went to the synagogues and they joined themselves to the apostate black Jews. And the reason for that is because they were trying to get these Hebrews, the black Hebrews who were in a state of apostasy, they were trying to get them to come back to the Most High to receive the salvation of Yahshua. They were trying to get them to believe in the death and resurrection of Yahshua and receive forgiveness of sins and eternal life. This is Corinth. Paul wrote 2 letters to the Corinthians that were living there. He wrote a letter to the Ephesians that were residing over here. And he wrote 2 letters to the Thessalonians, the original black Jews who were in a state of apostasy that were dwelling in Thessaly. In this location here, Paul wrote 2 letters to the Thessalonians. And the word on those letters on Thessalonians, and this is for Thessalonians only, Thessalonians is not really the title of the letters, but it is a word that was applied to the black Jews who were in a state of revolt against the persecution that was going on in Thessaly. You see, the word Thessalonian, that means those of the revolt. Thessalonians mean those of the revolt. It is a word that signifies and was applied to the happening that was going on in Thessaly. It was applied to the persecution that was going on in Thessaly. It is a word that was applied to the original black Jews who were revolting against the persecution that was going on in Thessaly. So the word Thessalonians means the black Jews of the revolt. And so Paul, he wrote 2 letters to the original black Jews who were in a state of apostasy. He wrote a letter to them, and it is called Thessalonians. Now, all of these black Jews in these regions, not all of them were in a state of apostasy, but many of them were. That's Thessaly there. And Paul, he wrote letters to Titus. Now, Titus, he was in Greece. Titus, when Paul wrote the letter to Titus, Titus was located in Greece, in Corinth. And Paul, he was in Nicopolis. When Paul wrote the letter to Titus, Paul was located in Nicopolis, and Titus was located in Corinth. And Paul wanted Titus to remain in Corinth to do the work here in assembling, gathering, and getting together the black Jews, the black Hebrews, bringing them together as one body in unity. Paul wanted Titus to stay there and do that work while he remained in Nicopolis. So that's when he wrote the letter to Titus. And the letter to Timothy, 2 letters to Timothy. Timothy, he was located in Ephesus. And Paul, when he wrote the letter to Timothy, Paul, he was located in Macedon. Macedon, that we call Macedonia. This is where Paul was when he wrote 2 letters to Timothy. This is Macedonia. This is where the so-called Alexander the Great, this is where he was from. And Alexander the Great, he was a black man. He was not white, he was whitewashed, but he was a black man. He was a Macedonian, the son of Philip, and Philip was a black man. But Paul, he was located here when he wrote to Timothy, 2 letters to Timothy. And the Philippians, the original black Jews, some of them of apostasy, not all but some, many were. They were located here in Macedonia, in Philippi. This is where we get the letters to the Philippians. This is where they were. And Philemon, he was located here in Macedonia. But Paul wrote the letter to Philemon. He sent that letter to this location here, Macedonia. Now these are the 3 main locations: Macedonia, Greece, and Rome. Those are the 3 main locations of the letters of Paul. Now, they are the 3 main locations of the letters of Paul that we have. Paul, he may have written many more letters that we do not have, and those letters may have different destinations that are outside of Macedonia, Greece, and Rome. But according to the letters that we do have, the 3 main locations of Paul's letters are Macedonia, Greece, and Rome. And we have one more location, which is also going to be a Roman province, and that is Phrygia. You see, in Phrygia is an old name for the kingdom that took over the Hittite kingdom. Phrygia was an old empire, and as time went on, the name Phrygia was changed to Galatia. And so the letter to the Galatians, this is where the original black Jews, many of them who were in a state of apostasy, they were residing here in Galatia. And Galatia is one of the cities that was called Asia because of the corruption and wickedness that was going on. The other one is Colossae. This is another location where the original black Jews, many of them who were in a state of apostasy, they were residing in Colossae. And this is the location of Colossae and Galatia, located here in the old Phrygian and old Hittite location. This is the old Hittite kingdom that became Phrygia, and then ultimately it was changed to Galatia. And this was a province of Lydia, then a province of Greece, and lastly a province of Rome. But all this here is the ancient Hittite Empire.